Selamat siang. Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. This is December 8th, 2021, and my name is Bruce. And finally some sun today. Sun, yes, it's cloudy, but there's sun, and it's really windy. I wanted to go outside, but there's no way today. You may be able to hear the waves crashing on the seawall. Maybe not, I hope not. So what is the big news? The big news is about PPKM, the community's restrictions, and PPKM level 3 cancels throughout Indonesia during Christmas, New Year. Wow. Okay, this is big. And the cancellation comes from Pakulut. So what are the reasons? Daily COVID-19 cases are stable below 400. The trend of decreasing active cases and number of hospitalized in the last few days. In the last month, the government has strengthened 3T, testing, tracing, and treatment. And at the same time, there was an acceleration of vaccinations. Testing and tracing remain high, daily cases are low, and the number is better than the same period in 2020. We know the numbers in Java and Bali, vaccinations are high, especially compared to the rest of the country. What does all that mean? It means the numbers are looking good, vaccinations are being done, and the situation is completely different than December 2020, which was what the government was basing these restrictions on in the first place, is that they were afraid there's going to be a spike like there was last year, but the situation is much different. So what are some of the rules for this loosening up? Okay, travel requirements. Negative PCR test result maximum 2 times 24 before departure. This is traveling from abroad and must be quarantined for 10 days. Okay, so that's if you're coming in from overseas. Domestic travel requirements. Complete vaccination is required, 2 doses. Show a negative antigen test, maximum 1 times 24 or 24 hours before departure. Adults who are not fully vaccinated or cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons are not permitted to do long-distance travel. Children are allowed to travel on the condition they show a 3 times 24 PCR test for air travel or a 1 times 24 antigen test for land or sea travel. Those are travel changes. What else? All New Year's celebration activities in hotels, shopping centers, malls, and tourist attractions and other public crowded places are prohibited. Regulation of operating hours for shopping centers, restaurants, cinemas, and tourist attractions. Maximum capacity, 75%. Only visitors to the green category in the Peduli Lindungi app are allowed in. Restrictions on social cultural activities. Crowds allowed maximum 50 people, and you have to use the PL. Now, if you're a foreigner and you don't have the PL or it doesn't work for you, you can show your papers. You have been up till now, and I'm assuming, well, that's a bad thing to do here. I'm hoping, let's say, that will be the same. And any pushback about this? Well, the University of Indonesian epidemiologist Pandu Riono said in his Twitter account that he supports the government's decision to drop the plans to curb public mobility. He said he personally believes Indonesia will be able to enter an endemic phase and set free from the COVID-19 wave, the third wave, that is. And he said, even though the Indonesian Health Ministry stated a rise in cases across 21 regencies and cities around the country, the cases are actually from active testing. Generally, Indonesia is still under control and shows no signs of a third wave. So this is really good news, really great news for tourism here in Bali. It means people will be allowed to come here. They can't do Christmas and holiday celebrations, but they can hang out at the pool, they can go to restaurants, they can go to tourist attractions. So this is going to make people in the tourism business and all of the people that want work, it's going to make them really happy, because I think we're going to get some numbers in here, and I'm going to talk about that soon. 20,000 domestic tourists crowd Bali per day during Nataru holidays. So the change in the policy is predicted to boost the number of domestic tourists in Bali up to 20,000 people a day. Wow, that would be massive. According to the Deputy Chair for Culture, Environment and Public Relations of the Regional Management Board of the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurants Association, BPD, PHRI, Bali E. Gusti Nurarai Surwijaya, he said, I predict that for Naturu 2022, it will reach 15,000 to 20,000 per day. That's what we hope for. He said the data is based on domestic tour visits to Bali this past Sunday that ranged from 10,000 to 11,000 people per day. And he said that if there is an increase of up to 20,000, hotel occupancy could increase up to 50%. Wow. In order to achieve this target, Pak Surwijaya said that various hotels that are members of PHRI Bali are preparing special price packages for tourists. And these are going to be done at special prices because we know that the situation and conditions are still decreasing people's purchasing power. What is important is that we can go and open it first. That's our hope. Yes. Okay, let's be positive. Wow, good weather and some good news. And Pak Surwijaya said he hopes the decision to cancel the implementation of PPKM Level 3 policy will soon be ratified through the instruction of Ministry of Home Affairs. This needs to be done immediately so no more changes can occur. But why am I laughing? Because there's changes all the time. And even when the official document is released, that does not mean that they can't make any changes. They can always make changes. But let's be positive. Let's think positive. No naysaying on this video. Okay, so good news, good news. And what about the numbers? More good news. Okay, the 7-day average for new positive cases, 9. We're down below 10 again. Hooray! And the 7-day average for deaths is 1. And yesterday's count throughout Indonesia, 261 cases, deaths 17. Okay, deaths are up from the other day. New cases holding steady there in the mid 200s. So good news. Total number of individuals, total individuals tested for all Indonesia yesterday, 281,032 with a 0.09% positive rate. And the 7-day positivity rate was 0.12%. Wow. These numbers are really, really encouraging. And no testing data available on Bali. Bali vaccination numbers, 3,457,221, 77.4% of the population for the first dose, and 3,055,084, 68.4% of the population for the second dose, or fully vaxxed, and 4,383 additional doses were administered yesterday. And Bali numbers for yesterday, 10 new cases, so just over the average, deaths 1, and active cases 169, recoveries, couldn't find any data on recoveries. Good news, I'm pumped, I'm happy. Good weather, good numbers. Backing off the restrictions, okay, some positive things here. And so let's take a look at the Omicron variant, and I'm only going to do one story. There's a lot of stuff out. Thanks for the link that I was sent on the last video. I've taken a look at that, and I'm going to have some more about Omicron on Sunday, but not today. Just don't have time, too much stuff done. So we're going to do a couple segments on Omicron and then move on. What do we know about the Omicron variant at this point? Fauci says early reports encouraging about Omicron variant. So the U.S. health officials said that the Omicron variant is spreading rapidly throughout the United States. Early indications are that it is not as severe, not as dangerous as the Delta variant, which is the main variant in the United States. Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the President of the United States Chief Medical Advisor, and, well, if you listen to some Republicans, many Republican politicians and Fox News talking heads, he's Satan, he eats babies, and, well, he's a Nazi war criminal. But if you're a rational person, he said scientists need more studies before they can make any conclusion about the severity of the virus. However, he said it does not look like there's a great deal of severity to it, but we have to be careful before we make any determination that it's less severe or it really doesn't cause any severe illness comparable to Delta. The Omicron variant has been detected in about 1/3 of the U.S. states, But Delta remains the dominant variant and causes more than 95% of the cases and is driving a surge of hospitalizations in the north of the U.S. And according to a World Health Organization epidemiologist, Dr. Maria van Kerkhove, even if we have a large number of cases that are mild, some of those individuals will need hospitalization. They will need to go into ICU, and some people will die. We don't want to see that happen on top of an already difficult situation with Delta circulating globally. And therefore, U.S. health officials are urging people to get vaccinated because the United States has many, many people that are anti-vaxxers, and to receive booster shots as well as taking precautions such as wearing masks when among strangers indoors. And mask wearing, of course, is a political issue in the United States as well. So, what's the word then? The word is, we don't know, it's spreading rapidly, but it seems less severe. So hopefully another week we'll have more information and we can begin to relax a bit about Omicron, not about Delta. And what about Indonesia and Omicron? Government to evaluate travel corridors following emergence of Omicron variant. So the Tourism and Creative Economy Minister, our old friend Pak Sandiaga Uno, said that the government is soon going to evaluate the 19 countries that have a travel corridor to Indonesia. It's a travel corridor nobody's using. What's the point of reevaluating it? The list of 19 countries that were permitted to Indonesia will soon be evaluated, as there are countries that saw spikes in COVID-19 cases after and before Omicron. Those 19 countries that can come into Indonesia are Saudi Arabia, the UAE, New Zealand, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Dina, India, Japan, South Korea, Liechtenstein, Italy, France, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Poland, Hungary, Norway. What's Dina? Dina is China. Okay, and China. In China, well, they're not going anywhere. And Pak Sandiaga said, well, this is spreading rapidly, and so we need to take a look at the situation as it is right now, but we still need more information. Okay, everybody does. And vaccines and vaccinations. 5.5 million doses of Covovax AstraZeneca vaccines have arrived in Indonesia. Indonesia received 4,865,000 doses of Covovax and 656,000 doses of AstraZeneca. According to the Communication and Informatics Ministry Director General of Information and Communication, wow, that's a mouthful, Usman Kansong, these additional doses will boost the national vaccination program and show the government's commitment to providing enough vaccine for all Indonesians. Pak Usman called on members of the public to constantly obey existing health protocols, as everybody always does, including mandatory face masks, washing hands, maintaining physical distances, avoiding crowds, and restricting mobility. And how much of that is going to happen? More on vaccines and vaccinations. Indonesia receives Janssen vaccine from the Netherlands. So Indonesia received 324,000 doses of the Janssen vaccine produced by Johnson & Johnson from the Dutch government as part of the 146th batch of vaccines to arrive in the country. And the spokesperson, Siti Nadia Tarmizi, who I've talked about many times, said the Indonesian government would like to thank the Dutch government for their assistance in providing the vaccines. The vaccine delivery was a continuation of the Dutch assistance to Indonesia. The first vaccine assistance was 500,000 doses back in September, and then 657,000 doses of AZ. And additionally, the Dutch have donated 819,600 doses of Moderna on October 30th and 680,400 on October 10th. And Ibu Tarmizi said Indonesia has aggressively sought equality of access to vaccines to protect the world from the threat of COVID-19. And she said, President Jokowi has said, if there's no equal access to vaccines, it will be difficult to meet the vaccination targets set by the WHO. According to this article, approximately 80 countries will not be able to vaccinate 40% of their population by the end of this year. And Indonesia is continuing working on vaccinating people far out from the center here, the outer islands, as some people like to say. And Ibu Tarmizi said, in addition to providing vaccines, the government's providing vaccine education to the public to counter false news or hoaxes that are in wide circulation. She said in some areas, hoaxes have played a role in slowing down vaccinations. People are worried and afraid about the side effects of the vaccine. And as always, when any public official from Indonesia speaks, they always end up saying, and let's keep the health protocols. So by saying that, okay, they're reminding people as they should, but does that mean that they know that people are following health protocols less and less these days? Could be. And here's a really interesting article, one more on vaccines. Sinovac becomes Indonesia's most sought-after vaccine. I remember when nobody wanted to take this. Back in the beginning, this was the only choice, Sinovac, and people said, it's coming from China, it's not going to be any good. I don't want it. I'll wait. Maybe one will come from the US or from Europe. Well, the demand for Sinovac now is so big that it's putting a brake on the government's nationwide vaccination drive. According to Ibu Tarmizi, the pace of inoculation has been slowing the past 2 weeks, and I've mentioned this a few times, because many districts and provinces refuse to use vaccines other than Sinovac. This problem started in the second half of the year when the government spread out and began to introduce other vaccines that were either being purchased by Indonesia or being donated from other countries. And Ibu Tarmizi said she doesn't understand why people are getting so picky about the vaccine. But she said that there are complaints about adverse effects from the other vaccines. Nevertheless, she said the government will continue diversifying supplies and reducing Sinovac doses regardless of the public's preference. She said, our roadmap says that in the second half of the year, a bigger amount of supplies should comprise AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, and Novovac. And she said supplies are limited and people cannot be choosy. They should be thankful for the vaccine they get. Sinovac, also known as Coronavac, is the dominant brand that's been used. Of the 235 million doses administered between January and October, 186 million were Sinovac. This figure includes 121 million Sinovac doses manufactured locally by state-run pharmaceutical company Biopharma under license from the Chinese company. Okay, isn't that curious? Wow. And bad news for trekkers. Mount Rinjani closed to trekkers through March. So the other day, in the last video, I was saying, well, if you come to Indonesia now, you can do whatever you want. If you come in on a B211 business visa, you're not restricted to just staying in Bali. Well, you can go to Lombok, but you can't climb the mountain. The mountain routes are closed. This was a decision taken because of heavy rains this year and the accompanying risk. Well, the risk for hikers if they try to get up in Rinjani in heavy rain with a lot of landslides, loose soil, loose gravel. According to Dedi Astriadi, there are 4 trails at the Mount Rinjani National Park that are temporarily closed and will reopen in April of 2022. These locations in heavy rain are prone to flooding. The closing has been done out of a concern for visitor safety. And what's happening in Mount Semeru? Mount Semeru update: Indonesia relocating refugees for fear of follow-up eruptions. So far, 14 people have died and many more injured. According to this, at least 69 and hundreds displaced. And well, this is an ongoing story, and so you can easily find information about this on international sites. I found some on MSNBC and CNN, and in a Japanese online news site. Minister Muhajir said that the government has set up command posts for disaster emergency management to support the activities of volunteers and humanitarian agencies who are helping with the eruption response. So I hope no more deaths or injuries. And well, there's going to be a lot of relocation work and helping people get new homes. One of the things of living here is earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, and just a quick update on Mount Semeru volcanic eruption. The death toll is up to 34 today. The National Disaster Agency said aid is being rushed to the affected region, and the disaster has swallowed entire homes and vehicles, blanketing villages in gray ash and leaving residents terrified to return home. And President Jokowi has arrived in the regions devastated by the eruption to oversee what's happening in terms of relief efforts. And so let's hope that that gets done quickly and that there's no more deaths. It's been a long time since I've talked about schools, and here's the story. It's really started about a week ago, but there's a good lesson here, and this is still ongoing. Denpasar closes 15 schools after confirming dozens of COVID-19 cases. The city of Denpasar began rolling out random PCR tests for teachers and students on November 11th, and this led to the discovery of confirmed cases. And if you've watched previous videos, you know that kids went back to school in October after being out of school for almost 18 months. And according to Dewa Gede Rai, spokesman for Denpasar's COVID-19 task force, the cases were asymptomatic. There were 31 students and 6 teachers across 15 schools at primary and junior high level, and the schools were closed for 2 weeks. If there are no more cases after testing, there will be limited face-to-face learning starting again. According to Dewa, we're still investigating the source of transmissions. We're not yet able to determine where it happened, whether it's at home, playground, or school. We are still conducting tracing. And so what is the lesson here? The lesson is that kids are back in school on a tenuous basis. So if cases show up, schools can be closed again. And in my granddaughter's case at her school, she's in grade 3, she only goes to school 2 hours a day. Now, if she was in school normally, she would go from 7 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. Now she's going from 7 to 9, sometimes 9:30. And so there's a lot of focus on tourists and bringing tourists in and the economy, but we can't forget, while we're worrying about the health and we're worrying about the economy, we have to worry about the kids and the education as well. And that has been pushed aside for far too long. It needs to be focused on by the governments, by both the regional government, the national government, and local governments. And more Bali news. As I said, it has been raining here, and raining and raining and raining. Minor floods inundate parts of Bali as officials urge caution against coastal flooding. Well, we're as close to the coast as you can get. If you've seen any of my drone videos, you know we're not even a stone's throw away. Our front door is 10 meters from the seawall, so we're as coastal as you can get. According to the Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency, BMKG, caution needs to be taken against coastal flooding on all Bali beaches until at least December 9th. Flooding's been happening around the island. One of my daughter's houses flooded yesterday. Areas that have been selected especially from BMKG, Nusa Dua, Kuta, Kadonganan, Benoa, Sanur, Gianyar, Padang Bai, and Jembrana. According to Dwi Hartanto, coastal floods are predicted to hit the different areas at different times, and heavy rainfall is expected over the province and continuing on, because we got a long time to go with the rainy season still. So if you're here, how are you doing with the rain? Up here in Singaraja, bad, but today it hasn't rained. It's really, really overcast, but we've been fortunate not to have any rain, and I took a walk out and I'm making a video for a Singaraja Snippets video of what the city looks like now. There have been so many changes since I've been in parts of the city, not that far from here, so very cool. I was very excited about my walk today, but I'm putting that together maybe in a few days. And more on Bali. Holiday gatherings must be kept small. The Indonesian National Police have formally outlawed any Christmas and New Year's celebrations that would cause people to gather in large mass groups, and I've already talked about that before. The police have warned that large group gatherings discovered during the period of December 24th to January 2nd would be disbanded and corrective measures would be taken. I wonder what the corrective measures are. And to ensure that the rules are enforced during this 10-day period, police will intensify routine patrols and establish temporary police posts at various locations. Additional police personnel will be deployed at entrance points to toll roads, air and seaports, and popular tourist destinations. And police at ports will be inspecting vaccination certificates, and the PL will be used. Now, when I was walking around today, I didn't see any place that had a PL sign on it, including the market, which is supposed to, as far as I know. And some more in a very short segment on Bali's tourists who spend more. Bali seeking tourists who spend more. So the Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment, Pak Luhut, observed that expenditures by foreign tourists in Bali are below counterparts in KL and all over Asia, actually. Pak Luhut said in 2018 the spending level per tourist per day in Indonesia was less than other countries in Asia. Data provided by MasterCard for 2018, tourists in Bali spent $125 a night. Wow, that's a lot more than I spend. As compared to KL, where the average spent was $142. Okay, $17, big deal. The same data from MasterCard revealed an average spent of $223 a night in Osaka, $247 in Phuket, and $272 in Singapore. Now, to be fair, Osaka and Singapore are not cheap places. Phuket, well, you could spend a lot less, but Phuket's got nightlife where you can spend a lot of money. And, well, our nightlife in Bali is not quite the same as the nightlife in Phuket, if you've been there. And Pak Luhut said once again that we're going to shift away from quantity to quality visitors with a high rate of daily expenditure. That song has been sung many times. And so how is this going to go? I think when we open up, we're going to be glad to take anybody, no matter how much they spend. And I'd still like to see some solid figures on how much backpackers spend. And some good news for people down in Kuta Beach. Kuta Beach installed free Wi-Fi for tourists. Cool. Okay. So in order for the public to get easier access to Wi-Fi down at the beach, an internet provider has installed 5 free Wi-Fi units at Kuta Beach. And this was done in order to help revive the tourism sector and as well to support the PL barcode installation so that people who do not have an internet quota can still access the internet. And according to the head of Information and Communication Technology of the Badung Communications and Information Technology, Inyoman Wiranata, so far as Kuta Beach, there's no Wi-Fi facility, so they provide assistance at the same time to support the implementation of the COVID-19 process, especially the PL barcode, so there's no longer any reason for tourists or visitors who are constrained by internet access to scanned barcodes. So in other words, you can't say, sorry, I don't have any internet access, can't scan my barcode. Well, now you're going to have internet access. And if you've been down at Kuta Beach and it's working, leave a comment and tell us how it's working. Is it fast? According to this article, it's supposed to be around 20 megabytes per second. And the Wi-Fi devices are installed at 5 strategic points at Kuta Market in front of Kuta Traditional Village Temple, the main access point at Bentar Temple and Kuta Beach Fishermen's Ward and the Kuta Beach Task Force office. And so those are the places where the Wi-Fi devices were installed. I don't know how far the reach is. So good news, you can hang around the beach, have a beer, and do your surfing or put your selfies and upload them right away, and you can see them instantaneously. It's time for a wrap-up. Now, people that have been coming in, you've been going in really, I think probably almost everybody into Jakarta, but you can go into Manado too if you come in on a B211, and there is a list of quarantine hotels in Manado, beachfront quarantine hotels, that is listed in the description. And so if you decide you want to go and spend 10 days in a resort in Manado, prices are pretty much the same as the high-end hotels in Jakarta. you want to do that instead of just staring out your window, take a look at that and go to the link there and see, maybe going to Manado is a better option than going to Jakarta. Okay, and what else? So nothing's happening with international people coming in here. There's no international flights coming into Denpasar, and so just forget about that for now. Unless you're planning on chartering a flight by yourself and your 100 friends or 50 friends and coming in, yeah, nothing's just happening there. The big thing is domestic tourism. With the drop in restrictions, people are expecting to get a load of domestic tourists, and there's already a lot of domestic tourists here. I was talking to my kids down at Denpasar. They said they see a lot of plates, Surabaya and Jakarta. And so that's good news, and there'll be more with the opening up now. And so there's going to be some happiness during the holiday season. So the good news, Omicron, all right, I'm going to talk more about that on Sunday. The early results, as I've mentioned, show that it's transmissible, highly transmissible, but it is not severe. That's at this point. But still don't know, still have to wait for information coming in, but things are looking good on Omicron, and so that is another thing to be happy about. A lot of vaccines coming into the country, and there's more that I didn't talk about that have just come in the last day. And so we're getting vaccines in, and so the vaccination program is going full tilt. Yes, okay. And ramping up testing and tracing because of the fears of Omicron getting in here and spreading throughout Indonesia and creating that third wave. There's been flooding around the island. Unfortunately, the story here said minor floods, but there's also been major floods. And of course, there's always got to be a segment on getting tourists to spend more money here. Okay, let's just get the tourist here first and then worry about them spending money afterwards. And so, yeah, I'm really pumped today. I'm really feeling positive today. I don't know why. Maybe because I took this long walk yesterday and I was around the city, and well, Singaraj is just such a great place. Watch for the video coming up in a day or two. And so I'm really pumped. The weather is great. The restrictions are dropped. Domestic tourists are coming in. I had a great walk yesterday around the city, and a video is coming up in a day or two. Probably a couple of videos on this because I was filming for about 2 hours of my walk. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for the comments. If you're in Bali, I hope you're enjoying a day like here where there's been no rain so far. And if you're not here, keep hoping. Things are going to get better. And I'm looking for a new crystal ball, and maybe I'll have it by next time. And so stay safe, be kind to someone today, and I will see you on Sunday.